welcome back to A Positive Light. I'm your host, Joni Lane. We're here every Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And we are here by way of LCM TV, who I'd like to thank for having us every Monday at 3 o'clock. The music you were listening to is by Sam Houston from his Beyond the Crescent Moon album. Beautiful music, and I love to play it for you. We'll also be ending the show with that. And if we have time, we'll do a meditation with his music in the background. A Positive Light is a nonprofit in Kelseyville, California, where we teach meditation classes and personal growth classes. On Monday nights at 7 o'clock, every Monday at 7, we have a meditation class for 1 hour. And there's no cost because we are a nonprofit, but we do keep our doors open based on the donations that you can afford to give. So we appreciate those. But again, every Monday at 7 o'clock, we do have a meditation, and that can be mindfulness meditation, loving kindness meditation, Vipassana meditation, which is insight meditation. And there's so many more. But we do hold those every Monday night. So you're welcome to join us. It's open to the public, 7 o'clock. The second Tuesday of every month, we have our 12 and Zen, and that is also at 7 o'clock at no cost. 12 and Zen is based on the book by Bill Krumbein, 12 and Zen. And we meditate on the steps as traditional AA steps, Zen practitioner steps, which are slightly different, and societal normal steps, which are also slightly different. Each month we pick a new step and progress on through the 12 steps, and we meditate on that step for about 10 minutes. And then we meditate on a Buddhist koan, which has been paired with that step. And we'll meditate on the koan, which is a parable or a story, and see how that opens up something new for us. Maybe it helps us see our step in a different light. It helps us deepen our relationship with our steps. And then we'll share what insights we may or may not have gotten from that meditation. It's really an exciting class. We just had ours last week, and there was only 4 people there, but we really got a lot out of it because each one was different. Each insight from every individual was different. So listening to them, we all got a lot out of it. So it was a really cool class. Sometimes we'll have as many as 12 people there, and then we'll really get talking about what's going on. So I'd love for you to join us with that. It's the second Tuesday of every month. If you're interested in sponsoring the show here on Mondays at 3, please give me a call or an email. We are looking for sponsors because we are a nonprofit. And we do need donations to keep our doors open and keep the program on. We try to keep our prices very low so it's affordable, but we can do an ad for you and keep the prices down to as low as $40 a month, which is really good television advertisement. I'm also a Reiki master teacher, and I love sharing Reiki. Reiki is Japanese energy work. It means universal energy, and it's very healing and very unique, similar to Qigong, which is Chinese, but this is Japanese, and it's slightly different, very powerful. I hold a Reiki circle the last Friday of every month, which fills up quickly. This month is filled. We'll see how next month goes. It looks like it may be filled as well. But if you're interested in joining us for that class, because it is so popular and fills up so quickly, it kind of self-explanatory. That's how powerful it is. People love it, and they sign up quickly for that class. Email me again or call me and let me know you're interested. There is a $10 donation requested for that group, but it's a very powerful Reiki circle. I'm having a camera adjustment. Yay. So hopefully that's better. And I also teach Reiki, so I can teach a first degree, second degree, which is level 1 and level 2, and a third degree, which is master. And as I can teach teaching as well, so you can become a master teacher if you're interested in that, progressing to that level. It's very powerful again, and usually the students I have sign up for the next level as soon as they can, as soon as they feel comfortable using the level that they're certified at. The class does contain a book that I've written. It's a workbook that we go over. It's about 4 to 6 hours long, not the book, but the class. And you do graduate with a degree, a certificate of completion, and you get to keep the workbook, and I will be your master for the rest of your life if you prefer. So if you're interested in learning Reiki, let me know. Call me, email me. I would love to share that. It's something I love to share with people. Very exciting news is November 8th. We will be hosting Kevin Griffin. Kevin is an international author. He speaks all over the world and has written several books, One Breath at a Time, A Burning Desire, Buddhism and the 12 Steps Workbook. He has a musical CD called Laughing Buddha, and now his newest book, Recovering Joy, which he's just released. You can purchase Recovering Joy from Amazon.com and a number of other places. It is put out by Sounds True. He is a very well-known author, and I'm thrilled that he has decided to again join us for another day-long workshop where we will explore ways to cultivate joy using traditional Buddhist mindfulness teachings, 12-step teachings, and contemporary practices for increasing happiness and contentment. This is a very exciting news because it's only $50. Kevin teaches, as I said, internationally, all over the world, has huge audiences, and he likes to teach at our place because we only have a few openings. It's very intimate, but we are keeping the prices very affordable at $50, so please sign up before time fills up the place for you and you won't have a space left. Don't want to miss out on this. If you want to join us, and I would love to have you join us, please call me, email me, and get on our list so that you can join us for this workshop. Kevin's a wonderful person. I've been teaching many places, but where I first heard of him was at Spirit Rock in Marin County, where I received most of my teachings. Really wonderful person, great insight, has a great sense of humor, wonderful stories. So please contact me to sign up for that November 8th class. One of the things that I've been doing here on the show is trying to help people see how they can find ways to lessen the suffering in their lives. And we were talking earlier, a couple months ago, about the Four Noble Truths. And I wanted to simplify that a little bit. It's very involved and can be very confusing when you really get into it. So I try to simplify things and keep them simple so it's easy to understand, because the Buddhist teachings can be very convoluted. And I don't want to confuse you. I want to help you. So rather than confuse you, I'm trying to keep it simple. We went with the 3 difficult practices. How simple is it when I'm calling it a 3 difficult practices? They're difficult, but they're not impossible. Anything that you can do to change your life to make it happier is going to include a little bit of work. But the 3 difficult practices are: notice when you're hooked. Notice when you're hooked into a behavior. Your button has been pushed. Do something different, and to make this a daily practice. So I'm going to conclude our series today with an explanation or an exploration of what it actually means to choose a fresh alternative or different behavior. When we're talking about Shenpa, we're talking about that moment of being hooked. That moment, that instant when your button is pushed. Somebody says or does something, and you instantly have a physical and emotional reaction to it. That instant that that button is pushed is called Shempa. Shempa means to suffer, the moment the suffering begins. Normally when our buttons get pushed, we go down a certain knee-jerk reaction. We go down a path we always go to. It's habitual, it's a pattern of behavior that we're not even consciously aware of. We just go there and react. And the reaction usually comes from a place of anger, which usually causes suffering because we're usually very, very defensive. And in our defensive behavior, we're pushing other people's buttons and they're reacting. So a cycle begins and it causes a lot of suffering. So learning how to do something different is really the difficult part. And I think when we started, I talked about noticing when the button was being pushed, taking one day and just noticing it. Not really reacting, not doing anything different yet. Just notice how many times in the course of a day your button may get pushed. And then the next week I suggested that you notice when your button is being pushed and pause and not react. And to sit in that discomfort of not knowing what to do because you don't want to go down the road you always go down. And it's an uncomfortable place to be because we're not used to it. So what we want to talk about today is how do you find the fresh behavior? Where do you go? If we're so used to reacting in a certain way, how do we know how to find different behaviors? How do we know what behavior would be better? And it's really kind of a trial by fire kind of a thing. When we're growing up as children, we learn what reactions work, what reactions don't work. And as adults, we fall into behavior patterns that we're not aware of. So becoming aware of them, noticing when you're being that button's being pushed, and the Shempa begins. You notice a lot of things. What do you do when you notice you're being hooked? What do you naturally, normally do? How do you actually go about doing something different? And what's the something different that you should or shouldn't be doing? And the main instruction so far was to notice that you're hooked and pause and breathe into it. And when you realize that you're hooked, don't habitually act or speak to relieve that discomfort. So now you're kind of caught in a new place of Shempa. Not only has your button been pushed, but now you don't want to react in the way that you always reacted, which is putting you in an uncomfortable place. This is causing new Shempa. So when you don't react in the way you always react, and you don't really know what to do, a lot of people will ask me, aren't we repressing? Aren't we avoiding? If we're not going to react and we're not going to do something that we normally do, aren't we repressing our feelings? And that's a really good point. Because our repression occurs when we fail to relate to or we deny what is actually happening. So let's see if I can find a for instance. Let's say someone cuts you off in traffic or you're late and now you're stuck in traffic and there's some rude person trying to push his way in and you can't get where you're going and you've got a deadline, you've got to pick up the kids, you've got to go to the store. You know, there's things you have to do. Time is running out, day's getting later. And you're getting really frustrated. But when you look at it, when you stop and you don't react, which may normally be to maybe tell this person off. Maybe your normal reaction is to get really angry at this person. Now you're not going to do that. Now you're making a conscious effort to not do that. It's an uncomfortable place to be. Where do you go? What do you do? Now you're going to sit in that discomfort and wonder, okay, I'm going to breathe. I'm going to pause. I remember that lady telling me not to react. I'm going to breathe and pause. And I don't really know where to go. But I know I don't want to make things worse. So I'm not going to do anything. That's a good first start. That's a good beginning because you haven't gone down your habitual path. The more we go down our habitual path, the deeper that pattern has become and the easier it is to go there. But to create a new path means stop yourself from going down your typical knee-jerk reaction and breathe. So usually what happens at this point is we start a story in our mind. Usually we start a story of, who does this person think they are? Now they're making me late. Why do they think they're more important than I am, and I've got to do this? And now you're creating a lot of story action in your head. The traffic continues on, you may get home and you're still going over the story. You're still stewing about this person that cut you off in traffic. Or maybe you're stewing about a person that upset you at work. Either way, you're continuing to stew about something that happened in the past and you're bringing it with you. And now the storyline is causing more and more suffering because now you're creating something bigger and you're throwing fuel on this fire of Shempa. You're really making it a big deal. You're being very dramatic and making a big deal out of it. Going on and on and on. And there's nothing wrong with that because I think we all do it. But the point I want you to see is you are causing yourself a lot of discomfort and suffering when you're doing it. Which brings up the question, well, what else do I do? I don't know. How do I find this other fresh behavior? So, in order to fully experience what's really happening, in order to fully experience the truth of the situation, you have to let go of the story. Because the story is something you're making up, and you're throwing fuel on a fire that may or may not have anything to do with what you're making up in your head. But either way, you're making it worse and you're causing yourself more suffering with that story you're creating. So going into the storyline is when you're actually avoiding what's really happening. So when people ask me, am I not repressing or avoiding when I don't react? I would say that when you do react and you create a bigger deal than it really is, and you're throwing fire on the sparks of Shempa, that is actually avoiding the truth. You are creating a situation where you can avoid the truth of what the real situation is, what's really going on. Just think about this for a second. How many times in this past week have you been caught in a storyline? How many times has something happened, someone upset you, did something, said something, and you're still thinking about it? You're still stewing over it. You're still processing it in your head, and you're being really dramatic. That's a really important part to look at, because when we realize, wow, you know what, something did happen, it is still upsetting me, but I'm processing it. That's different. If you have not reacted to the person that upset you, if you didn't react out of anger and didn't tell them off and create this huge thing, and you sat with those feelings and you're still thinking about it, as long as what you're doing is not causing you suffering and you are just processing it through and thinking about, how else could I act? Where does this come from? Those are really healthy ways to look at it. Just because you're thinking about something that happened last week doesn't mean that it's unhealthy. It depends on how you're doing it. So when you come back to the nonverbal felt experience, that's the moment when the suffering ceases. So when you're actually going back to those moments when you can feel it and you see it and you're processing it, maybe you're tearing it apart and looking at it without really being angry, but you're just observing it and looking at it. That's when the moments of suffering cease. Because now you're taking a mature look at the truth of what's really happening. So instead of habitually following your chain reaction, you simply stay with the experience of that hooked feeling and what it actually feels like. And you learn to catch it in various stages. Sometimes the little shenpa could be just a little twinge in your stomach. And sometimes you can just fall into a full-blown panic over something. So you catch it at different stages. And the more often you catch it and observe it, the more often you won't react to it. You'll just kind of take it and hold it and experience the truth of what the situation is, and either let it go or find a way that you can healthily deal with it. Healthily, I like that word. I'm making up words as I go. So we've all had our own personal experiences of Shenpa, and we all know what it feels like to be hooked. But to fully see what's happening, you have to go beneath the words. You have to feel and experience what's happening. Shenpa can be described as the root of all suffering. It's the beginning, it's the root of all suffering. And following the momentum of your knee-jerk reaction is what brings you down that road of suffering. Conversely, choosing a fresh alternative or different behavior can be the opening to happiness. So if Shenpa is the root of suffering, finding fresh behavior and looking at the truth and accepting the truth and dealing with what's real can be the opening to happiness. And this is where most people think, well, I really want to do that because I really want to be happy. And I think most people do want to be happy, but we get caught up in our societal habitual patterns. And it's fed by a lot of things. It's fed by media, it's fed by family, it's fed by peer pressure, it's fed by a lot of things. So at some point you may want to ask yourself, who am I? How do I want to view the world? How do I want to react to the world? What kind of relationship do I want to have with the world? Do I need to be angry? Some people really feel they do need to be angry. I feel that if you choose to be angry, you're causing a lot of suffering for yourself. And once you realize you're causing that suffering by being angry, you can catch yourself and pause and breathe and learn to choose a different behavior. So one of the ways you can do that, that's the first step, and it's a real easy step, is to notice when you're hooked and what it feels like. What does it feel like in your body? What is it? Is your stomach tightening? Are your shoulders going up? Is your jaw tensing? What does it feel like in your heart? Does it make you happy? Does it make you sad? Does it make you frustrated and angry? So once you notice the feelings, if they're positive or negative, it's a good starting point, and you can go from there. Don't deny the feelings that you're having. So if you are going to deny the feelings you're having, then that is repressing. If you're angry, you can accept the fact that you're angry. Don't beat yourself up about it. But if you get caught in your anger, you're noticing, you're becoming aware. You're not repressing it, but being aware of it. So resisting the temptation to move into the storyline and that knee-jerk reaction is a big part of it. Resisting the urge to go into the storyline is a very important part of it, because it's so difficult to do. There's a tug that pulls us into this place where we really want to react. We really want to tell this person off. And it's really hard not to because they're making us that mad. But when you don't react and you really just sit and feel what's going on, you can really experience it. You know, Pema Chodron calls it letting it pierce you to the heart. So you feel the frustration or the anger or the shame or whatever it is that you initially feel, and really sit in that and experience it. And you sit and you pause in that energy and you look at it. Don't follow the storyline that probably comes up with it, but just sit in the energy of those emotions and that feeling. And now you can breathe, and you can remind yourself that those feelings are impermanent and that they are not real. They are just emotions. They do come from somewhere, but you don't need to bring them with you. So when you're sitting in that uncomfortable place of just sitting in those emotions, that's what we call burning those seeds of karma, burning the seeds of Shempa. It's really an uncomfortable place to be. If you're feeling angry or frustrated or whatever, and you're not reacting to it, and you're really feeling it, and you're letting it pierce you to the heart, you will begin to understand where it comes from. So staying with the energy and experiencing the energy, not what hooked you, you develop a curiosity about it. What's going on? Where does this energy come from? Notice how you're feeling in your body. Is your heart racing? Are your fists clenched? Is your breath constricting? Is your stomach feeling in a knot? Excuse me. Once you notice what's happening, you can bring your attention to these things and just breathe. And notice too what happens when you breathe. What starts to happen when you say, okay, I'm getting really angry, I'm getting really frustrated, I'm not going to react to this. But I'm going to sit in this anger for a while and just breathe, see what happens. And when you're breathing and you're reminding yourself that it's impermanent, you'll notice that it starts to dissipate. When you start to try to pinpoint where it comes from, it becomes very elusive. It starts to go away. And you start to realize how unimportant it is and how much you don't need it in your life. And that's a really big place to come to. When you realize this is impermanent, this feeling of anger and frustration, I'm going to breathe. I'm going to look at what's going on in my body. I'm going to look at where this comes from. Why am I getting caught up in this? Do I really want to get caught up in this? I'm going to breathe. I'm going to look at this. And the more you do that, the more it will go away. And the quicker it goes away after a while. And the more you don't want to go down your knee-jerk reaction, that pathway. So, wondering where Shempa comes from, what it really is, the origination of it. What's the origination of your behavior, your feelings, your habitual patterns? We're going to come back in a couple of minutes. We're going to take a break now. And I'm going to tell you a story that Pema Chodron shares with her class that I think will help you see what I'm trying to say. So we'll be back in a couple of minutes. Thank you.
You're invited to participate in a true multimedia experience coming to a home near you. LCM TV is bringing Lake County into the new millennium with news, live broadcast, information, music, talk shows, and local programming, all streaming in high definition online and soon to be on your Roku box. Join us at lcm-tv.com or be a part of our studio audience. You can also watch the shows at lakecomagazine.com as we provide programming to inform, enlighten, and maybe even enrage you. On Lake County Magazine Talk Show with Terry and Pete the Tax Guy, Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. Like racing? Try the Checkered Flag Show, hosted by Ace Naylor on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. All ages and divisions in regional and national fields. Joni Lane brings a positive light to you every Monday at 3 p.m. Pasha Space brings an international flair as they discuss ecological, health, and social issues in Haiti with people around the world. End up your week with positive, conscious sounds on Saturday at 9 a.m. with Sister T on the Bridge. This show is also simulcast on KMEC 105.1 FM in Ukiah. Our latest show, LCM TV News, is brought to you live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at noon, and rebroadcast at 6:30 p.m. and noon daily, Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday, featuring national, regional, and local news, weather, and sports. We have it all here for you on your local TV station, LCM TV. Join us online and soon on Roku, giving you access to all the best Lake County has to offer. We are LCMTV.com, your multimedia connection. Tune in for the fun. It's live TV at its best.
Hi, and welcome back to A Positive Light. I am your host, Joni Lane. And we've been talking about Shempa, that moment when our button is pushed. And to not react in the same way we always do. Find new, fresh behavior instead. And to practice that in your daily life. We're going to wrap up our series today. We've had an 8-week series now. Went by quickly for me. But I think we covered a lot. And I know I repeated myself quite a bit, but I really feel that it's important to make certain points well known. And I really am hoping that I'm keeping it simple and explaining it clearly enough so that you can understand that our behavior is patterns we have created. And we keep our patterns in place by making up stories in our head and dramatizing things and making a bigger deal out of things than they really have to be. Learning to let things go is not necessarily repressing or avoiding. Learning to let things go is learning to behave differently and choosing an intentional, fresh behavior, a healthy behavior. So one of the things I said before we went to break was knowing where your Shempa comes from, knowing where these patterns of behavior come from, and getting caught up in them. Noticing that we do get caught up in them, and we all do. I do. I get caught up in stuff and I realize, oh wow, I'm doing that again. Pema Chodron, who is a wonderful teacher, has a story that she talks about in her book. I think it's When Things Fall Apart. And the story is when she's a young girl, she has a best friend and they're out camping in the backyard. And her friend tells her, confides in her that she has a recurring nightmare. And in this recurring nightmare, this girl is being chased by monsters and she's running and running, and there's a door in front of her, and she reaches the door and opens the door and shuts the door in front of the monsters who are right behind her, and now she can hear them getting through the door. So she runs and runs and runs to another door. She opens it and closes it right before they get to her, and it continues that way. So it sounds like a really scary recurring nightmare, and she's terrified. And Pema, as a little girl, says, wow, that sounds really scary. What do the monsters look like? And her friend said, I don't know. I've never looked at them. I've just run from them. So she doesn't know if she intentionally did this or was thinking about it, but at some point a seed was planted. And the next time the recurring nightmare happened, her friend told her, I had the nightmare again. But this time in my nightmare, I wanted to see what the monsters looked like. So I turned around, and they were scary, but they were far away. And the closer they got, I noticed their claws. I noticed the color of their eyes. I noticed their teeth. And they got closer, and the more I was curious about what they really looked like, the closer they got. And the more she realized what they looked like, the more they started to disappear. And when they got very close and she got very intense in looking at them and trying to distinguish their characteristics, they just vanished. Which brings home the point that if you really lean into something, if you really sit with the discomfort of what you think is upsetting you, most of the time it's something you're creating in your head. In fact, I think all of the time it's something we are creating in our heads. It's a story we've made up. If someone has upset you, why? What is it really that's upsetting? If they have a problem and they're angry people, is that your problem? Do you need to take that on? Can you sit and look at that and realize that maybe you should have compassion for this person because they're angry and upset, but you don't need to be. So the monster can disappear when you look at it, when you really sit in that fire, in that uncomfortable place without reacting. Situations can change drastically, and you can learn to let go because it really doesn't matter anymore. It takes some practice, but the more we practice anything, the easier it becomes, the better we get at it. The easier you'll be able to let go of the things that really don't matter. And you can make the choice of, do I want to be dramatic? Do I want to go into this place of drama and create something bigger than it really is? Or do I want to look at the truth of the situation, the truth of what's happening? Accept my responsibility in it, accept my part in it, but also realize that other people have issues they need to work on, forgive them for that, and compassionately just kind of let it go and wish them well. It's not an easy thing to do when we're caught up in anger, but it's a really powerful exercise to practice. The other thing I hear about when we're talking about this is people say, well, meditation is difficult for me because I can't get my mind to stop thinking. And the purpose of meditation is to not stop the thoughts. The purpose of meditation is to have the thoughts that we are inevitably going to have and let them go. Not get caught up in them. Not create a story. And I think this is what happens with insomniacs. I've been an insomniac most of my life, and in the past few years I've been sleeping pretty well. But I realized a lot of it has to do with my mind. My talkative little mind will not leave me alone at night. And when I worked in a stressful job, everybody has stress in their life, but I had a very stressful job as an underwriter for a mortgage company. I got caught up in a lot of insomniac thinking. Oh, I have this loan I need to work on, and oh, I can't forget to do that, and I need to do this, and I would have work in my brain all night long and wake up exhausted if I slept. Not only that, but I had nightmares too, and I have recurring nightmares. Now they don't bother me so much, even when I have them, because I realize they're not real, and I let them go. But a lot of practicing letting go in your conscious world, in your daily life, can really help you learn how to let go of thoughts during the middle of the night when you're tired and you want to sleep. And I think we've all had those nights where 3 o'clock in the morning we are wide awake thinking about something that really doesn't matter, or something that will still be there in the morning when we wake up. If I'm working on a project like landscaping, sometimes I'll wake up and I'll start landscaping things in my mind, and I realize I'm doing that. I realize I'm caught up in that story, and I'm not outside doing anything. I'm not getting anything done. Really need to go to sleep so I can have enough rest so I can go out and do it the next day. Learning to let things go. Insomnia usually is nothing more than a brain that won't be quiet. And in meditation we can learn to let things go. Using our intelligent mind, our higher mind, we can separate from the drama, separate from the things that don't matter, separate from things that we don't need to go into a story about, and look at the truth of what's really going on. If it's the middle of the night, we can use our higher mind to say, you know what, this is going to be there in the morning when I wake up to greet me. So I'm going to let it go because it's going to be there in the morning. If you find yourself saying, you know what, I just thought of something and I can't forget this. I have to wake up and remember to do this in the morning. Bring a piece of paper and a pen to bed with you, wake up, write it down, and go to sleep. You usually will notice in the morning when you read it, wow, that was really silly. I didn't even need to write that down. But it helped you get to sleep. It helped you let go. So it's a simple solution. Dropping a storyline, opening to the truth, noticing that energy and staying in that energy is an important second step in finding a new fresh behavior. So now you're sitting in this truth. You've found a way to the truth. You've let go of the storyline and you've found your way to the truth, and now you're sitting in that energy. And it's much more calm. It's much more in the moment and true. And you realize that you can solve problems without drama and quickly. They don't hang on for weeks at a time. You're not stewing in them. You're not caught up in that energy, that storyline energy, which is a very hectic energy. The storyline energy is very hectic energy. The truth, the energy of truth, is very calming and methodical and helps you see what you can and can let go of and different behaviors that you can pick up. The important part at this point, I think, is to practice Maitri, which is self-compassion, which is being kind to yourself. So when you get caught and you're going, oh shoot, I'm in that storyline again and I feel that energy, and don't start beating yourself up. Be really kind to yourself. Just notice, okay, I'm doing it. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to let go. I'm going to look at the truth of the situation. Be nice to yourself because you're learning something new and it's going to take some time. And being kind and positive to yourself is going to give you positive results. So staying in a place of love, staying in a place of higher intelligence, and adopting a state of curiosity is a really important part of finding the fresh behavior. How do I find the fresh behavior? What do I do different? I think once we adopt the idea of curiosity, it helps lead us into a new place. I'm curious as to why I always become angry when this person does this. I'm curious, where does this come from? If you start becoming curious, you're not necessarily emotionally involved. You're more objectively looking at the situation. And when you can objectively look at the situation, you can usually see the truth and see a different path that will automatically open up to you. When you let go of that frantic energy of the storyline, step into the calming energy of the truth. Become curious about the whole situation. Most of the time, a healthy, fresh behavior will open up for you. And you can either see that I really don't really care about this anymore, or I don't want to act like that anymore. I think I want to act like this. And try on new behaviors. It's kind of like trying on new clothes. You want to see what fits. And different things fit different situations. So trying on new behavior is kind of fun, and you have to be very compassionate to yourself while you do it. And watch other people's reactions, be compassionate toward them. Using an open heart and your higher mind will usually lead you into the right place. Because you can usually feel with your heart what you should or should not be doing, the healthier way to go rather than the unhealthy way to go. So, talking nicely to yourself, being kind to yourself. If you find yourself saying negative things to yourself, catch it and say, oh, I'm doing that again. Okay, I'm going to replace that negative with a positive and say something positive toward yourself. And one of the perfect positive things you can say at this point is, you know what? I'm trying really hard to learn fresh behavior. And this is a really good thing. Trying to be a better person. And you're going to stumble a few times, but that's how we learn. It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It doesn't mean you have to beat yourself up. It means you're learning something new. So, practicing Maitri, being compassionate toward yourself, is a very important part. I think on the whole, practicing mindfulness meditation is the best way to get through all of this. In mindfulness meditation, we're not trying to not think. We are taking our thoughts and noticing them and letting them go. Practicing looking at a thought that comes, identifying it and letting it go. Not getting caught up in that storyline. Mindfulness meditation teaches us to be mindful. Mindful of our breath, mindful of our thoughts, coming back to our breath, letting go of the thought. Noticing we're having another thought, coming back to the breath, letting go of the thought. And in doing that, you're training yourself, you're teaching yourself to let go of behaviors and opening to the truth. When you're letting go of something rather than getting caught in a storyline, you're opening to the truth. And the lessons can be very subtle. Meditation lessons can be very subtle. And I think over time, meditation can be a tool that becomes automatic on our daily lives. So I'm not saying you're going to be driving your car and closing your eyes and breathing, but you will come to a point where you will see what you can let go of a lot faster, because meditation is teaching you to let go of things that really don't matter, and to look at things that do matter with an open heart and an open higher mind. So I really stress meditation as a learning tool. If you don't come to my meditation classes on Monday, please look for a meditation center near you. There are so many, and they're all over the country. I'm sure there's one near you that teaches mindfulness. It's a perfect way to start to make positive changes in your life, to let go of the stuff that doesn't matter anymore. It's causing drama, causes stress, causes suffering. You can let go of those things, and you can choose fresh behavior. I think at this point, I'd like to just do a quick, we can close with some meditation. And I'm going to read this description first before we begin. This is by Jack Kornfield, who's one of my teachers at Spirit Rock in Marin County. He says, in metta meditation, you may at times experience feelings contrary to loving kindness, feelings of irritation and anger. If this happens, it's especially important to be patient and kind towards yourself, allowing whatever arises to be received in a spirit of friendliness and kind affection. You can begin the practice of loving kindness by meditating for 15 or 20 minutes in a quiet place. Let yourself sit in a comfortable fashion. Let your body rest and be relaxed. Let your heart be soft and let go of any plans and preoccupations. Begin with yourself and breathe gently, and recite this inwardly. And this is a traditional phrase that you can recite. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be safe from inner and outer dangers. May I be well in body and mind. May I be at ease and happy. As you repeat these phrases, picture yourself as you are now and hold that image in a heart of loving kindness. Practice this meditation for a number of weeks until the sense of loving kindness for yourself grows. When you feel you've established some stronger sense of loving kindness for yourself, you can then expand your meditation to include others, at which time you can add the phrases, "May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be safe from inner and outer dangers. May you be well in body and mind. And may you be well at ease and happy." And from this, and learning how to be kind to yourself and practicing this meditation, when you really start to feel that inner calm and that inner peace, and you extend that to someone else, you extend that in your mind to someone else, it brings that feeling of peace into a larger bubble. And you can extend that out to the world. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be safe from inner and outer dangers. May we be well in body and mind. May we be at ease and happy. And meditate in that. And you may picture the world as a whole when you do that. And just send loving kindness out to everyone. But beginning with yourself, let's start this meditation. And we're going to be playing Sam Houston's music in the background. And Mark will be putting up graphics. And I will be helping you learn how to let go of thoughts by breathing and being kind to yourself. So taking a couple of deep breaths and exhaling and releasing any tension you're holding in your shoulders, in your jaw, in your face. Letting your heart be soft. Let go of any plans or preoccupations. And breathing in, feeling your lungs fill with air. And exhaling and letting go of any tension you're holding in your body. And you say to yourself, "May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be safe from inner and outer dangers. May I be well in body and mind. May I be at ease and happy. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be safe from inner and outer dangers. May I be well in body and mind. May I be at ease and happy. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be safe from inner and outer dangers. May I be well in body and mind. May I be at ease and happy. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be safe from inner and outer dangers. May I be well in body and mind. May I be at ease and happy. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be safe from inner and outer dangers. May I be well in body and mind. thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you next week. And please continue to join us with this meditation as the music sends us home. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be safe from inner and outer dangers. May I be well in body and mind. May I be at ease and happy.